Alrighty, what's going on, boys and girls? This is Matt here for Dark One Linux Tech Gamers, the fusion of Linux technology and gaming, and we are looking at a fun, interesting video that from the guys at Toasty Bros. They've installed Linux in the past, and I've always enjoyed their content because, especially when it comes to their Linux stuff, they don't come across as the know-it-alls like the Linux tech tips and that kind of stuff. So I want to see what they're going to do when trying to install SteamOS on a gaming PC. So this should be interesting. So sit back, have some fun, grab something to drink, and let's react.
You guys have really enjoyed the videos where we go down the path of installing Linux in order to get some better gaming performance, but today we're going to be installing the official SteamOS.
SteamOS ISO is available for download, and I've seen some people install it on gaming PCs, and we're going to get a sneak peek at potentially the future of gaming operating systems. We'll see if it's any good after a word from today's sponsor.
Now, before you even think about running SteamOS, the first hurdle to overcome is getting a gaming PC to run it on. That's where today's video sponsor Java.gg comes in. Java.gg is a marketplace created specifically for gamers. Whether you're hunting for a new graphics card, a fully custom-built gaming PC, or you're ready to sell some of your old hardware, from custom only 100, so you're not left feel good about what you're Java.gg's video. Now, let's get back to it.
So as you guys have seen before, there's quite a few OSs out there that are kind of specially designed for gaming on the Linux platform, such as Bazzite, and we wanted to actually try the SteamOS because it's like officially out there. Back in the day, we had the big picture, which we thought was going to be like the next big thing, and it kind of just fizzled out, but then the Steam Deck came about, and now they're like, okay, this is doing really good. Maybe we should make this available to the public to install on any device.
Now, the ISO is specifically designed for gaming handheld. As you might have seen, Lenovo and other manufacturers who make gaming handhelds are now releasing devices with SteamOS on board, so they need to have access to some sort of ISO to be able to do reinstalls if you need to and not just use the Steam Deck recovery software. So this ISO is mainly designed for handhelds, but I've seen a bunch of creators, shout out to Random Gaming in HD, by the way, where you can install this on a budget gaming PC using all A and B hardware. The specs we have here is a 9600X with an RX 9060 XT, and it just works. And you can actually use the built-in drivers it comes with, play games on it, and runs very similar to Bazzite. So in today's video, we're going to do just that. We're going to do the whole process live. We're going to look for the ISO. We're going to download it. We're going to make the bootable USB. We're going to install it, see if there's any problems along the way, and then we're going to play some games and see if there's any issues and see.
So this is kind of this is what I really appreciate, as opposed to most of the tech bros and the tech channels on YouTube, where they kind of come across in the Linux subject matter as know-it-alls because Linux, Windows power user or Mac power user, if there really is such a thing. They kind of come across in that more open-minded kind of approach. We don't know everything, and I can appreciate that. So they tend to approach the subject matter with a much more clear and open mind to the subject than they would if it was some of the other tech channels. So, I know a lot of people within the Linux community don't really care for these kind of reaction videos to quote unquote tech bros and all the other stuff of like tech channels. But these guys I find are very different. They're not stuck in the mud. They're open to technology. They're open to understanding that it's different. There's that openness and willingness to understand that it's different. And I can appreciate that. Might not always agree with everything or their takes, but I can appreciate the mindset that they're going into with looking at Linux, that it is not fucking Windows or Mac. And that is the biggest hurdle most of these tech bros always have when they come to Linux. You want to know what I mean? Just go look at the 2 or 3 year old Linux, LTT challenge and the moving goalposts that were there.
If SteamOS is on the right track to maybe being the gaming operating system of choice. Okay, guys, so we are currently on the website where you can download the Steam Deck image, which is basically a recovery image, but it is just an ISO. So basically, it has the whole install process that you can use just to, install on whatever you want. We're going to download it. It looks like it's about 2.9 gigs. Our internet's actually working properly now today. We had some issues the other day. This probably would take way too long. While that download in the background, you got to use Rufus or any sort of bootable USB making tool. Where is the download button for Rufus nowadays? They are loaded up with ads. Holy crap.
It's the same ad on repeat. I don't understand how ISOs are still a thing. It feels so OG because they're basically disk, like they're disk images.
Yeah. So with Rufus here, Rufus, we're going to let Steam Deck download here, but you can see Mars says a repair image, but it works as an install. So again, Steam doesn't technically want us to do this yet, but I mean, when you give us the option to install an ISO, we're going to install an ISO on a PC, especially with all AMD hardware.
Especially with those Linux boys out there. I mean, they should have known they'd be all over this.
But yeah, we got a little flash drive. It's one of these like basic Micro Center flash drives. Not even a sponsored video, but shout out to Micro Center for selling bulk flash drives at great prices on Amazon, which is funny to me. But I think it's a 32 gig flash drive. You don't need that much, obviously, but it's good to get a nice flash drive. So we can go ahead and put this in here. I'm going to insert it.
Rufus.
And Jackson, once it's inserted, do you want to build the bootable USB?
I'll try my bestest to build it.
It should be as simple as Windows, you would think, but that's why we're recording this whole process, because if it's not, you'll see the hardness of it.
All right, so right when you plugged it in, I see we have our device, and then we have to select our disk here. So we probably go to select. Well, let me do it in the.
It just lets you. I think.
Try it.
Let's try it as in the zip file. Yep. We want that. It's just theory. It'll be destroyed. It's gone. Deleting partitions, writing image.
Wow, that's crazy if we don't have to unzip it even. That's pretty cool. Okay. So that's actually easier than I thought. And, the Windows installs, those are cool because it's like a built-in tool. But honestly, Rufus, you're making it pretty easy for us.
Yeah, so Jonah's like, turn the camera around. Show the people what you're doing. He has a sandwich in his hand while we're doing this. So if it's shaky, comment down below. It's his fault.
So again, I just appreciate kind of the less serious nature that these guys take. You can watch like a MKBHD or all these other guys that are like super serious about the tech, and it's like these guys just have fun. And there's so few like tech channels nowadays where they just have fun that it's hard for me to like really watch. Like I did watch the J2 him trying out Linux, so I can't really react to that one. I mean, I can if you want, that's your call. But like there's just such a overproduction that it's hard for me to like see any enthusiasm from the content. And for me, like enthusiasm breeds the authenticity of the content. So that's kind of what I like about these guys, is there's that enthusiasm and sense of discovery and that kind of stuff that I really like. There's production values, but it doesn't feel so overproduced and so scripted, I guess is kind of where I stand with it. So to see that on a bigger channel is really something nice to see. And again, I'm not saying like Jay's content's bad or anything. I'm just saying for me personally, when I do kind of these reaction videos, the more over polished content, I tend to be a bigger critic of, more because it has to do with the fact that it shows to me that they have many, many more resources to use. So it just comes across as overscripted and unenthusiastic about the topic. So let's keep them cooking. So as far as Rufus, I'm indifferent. You're on Windows, use whatever you want. I really don't care. Use whatever app you want. Personally, for me, I tend to use Balena Etcher because it's cross-platform. Some will call it spyware. Some will call it, it's heavy. It's an overglorified Electron app, et cetera, et cetera. It's whatever. You can disable the shit for it. So use whatever works for you. Anyway, another tool that I might recommend is Ventoy, which is, you can take that 32 gig stick and probably stick like 10 or 12 different ISOs on it, depending on the ISO size, obviously. But Ventoy does tend to have sometimes issues when you're trying to use the medium as the installer. So, Team Serum. Anyway, keep rolling.
And call him everyone comment down below, call him Sandwich Boy.
Sandwich Boy. But we got the USB, I think, good. We'll find out if using the zip file was fine, if we can't boot to it. But one important thing that I've seen is if you're going to get this installed properly, you got to go to the BIOS and be sure to turn off Secure Boot. Why? I don't know. But for whatever reason, you Secure Boot disabled. Can I even get into the BIOS is the question. Okay, so let's go to, I'm assuming CPU configuration. Nope.
Probably under boot or security.
As far as the disabling of secure boot, that's usually down to the key signatures and the UEFI settings and all the other obnoxious stuff, MOK files and blah, 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 blah. So some have them, some don't, et cetera, et cetera. That is, if Microsoft was nice enough to be gracious enough to bless a Linux distro with a, UEFI secure boot key. That's generally why you would have to disable secure boot, because it locks down what you can and can't boot from, without the right kind of key enrollment and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, where is boot? Am I blind?
All the way over to the right.
Yeah, let's do boots. So I guess it'd be CSM is enabled. That is the same thing as secure boot being disabled. So secure boot, disabled.
Okay.
Cool. Perfect. So we're good there. Now we're going to boot override to our USB. Let's see if this one, Partition 2. Yes. Spoiler, we're having issues, but no, Jonas put the last piece of sandwich in his mouth. It stopped recording.
Do you want to try partition 1? So we've tried 2 other ones now.
So basically, we've tried this one, the normal USB boot. We've tried partition 2. Now partition 1, we're just going to try this to make sure. I'm thinking something's messed up with the drive, the USB. Oh, it was config failed. Hub doesn't have any ports. Wait 10 seconds. Okay.
Scanning.
Hold up. I remember them saying that it does scare you for a second. Oh, welcome to SteamOS. Okay. Oh, wait. It was partition 1.
You know what? Maybe Jonah's little mishap.
It saved us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not giving him credit for that. We cannot give him credit for that. That's fine. Okay, we'll just give it a minute. It's going to run through all this stuff, and then it should just go to a desktop to where we can go through, select what driver we want to install, and go from there. All right, so this is what I was talking about. So now we're on a desktop. Wipe device and install SteamOS is what we're looking for.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
So
right there.
So this isn't actually it.
Yeah, no, this is not actually it. So this will say it's going to reinstall economic me undone, permanently destroy all data. Yeah,
okay,
that's what we want. Yeah, it'll just all get deleted. So don't test this on a system with multiple drives because you will probably delete absolutely everything. This is an error. It says, did not receive a reply. Possible cause included the remote application did not send a reply. What does it even mean? Oh, wait, that's still spring. I'll tell you something. Okay, I'll just ignore that error for a second.
So that error is probably tapping for updates for Discover. So if I had to guess, that's probably what it's looking for. And that command right there, DD, is like, you were talking about, make sure you don't put this on a system with multiple drives. That DD command right there, you know how many Linux users have DD the wrong drive from the command line. So yeah, definitely be careful what you're wiping. Doesn't matter if it's from the GUI or the terminal.
Through an error, but it's still going. All right, guys, reimaging complete. Hit proceed. Let's ball. I have a feeling it didn't work. Of course, it's not easy for us. Of course.
It never is.
Those damn content creators make it look so easy, but it isn't. It never is. All right, guys, checking back in because what I did was remake the USB. I was a little hesitant on the way we made the USB not being working properly, and I went ahead and did that on my PC, downloaded the ISO again, installed the USB, got that all set up, and then I went into the BIOS and made sure we had CSM on, legacy mode on, and secure boot disabled, and I rebooted to the USB, and now I went through this install without throwing any of those weird errors we were having before. So potentially, if they proceed, oh wow, it's actually rebooting now. I think this is gonna work. We'll give it a go, though, for sure, but it is rebooting currently. Okay, we're not there yet, apparently. All right, well, I guess you could say this is the fun or the pain of the process of trying something that isn't officially supported because there's really no guides out there to try to help you if you have any problems. We're trying some more troubleshooting here. So currently, the one thing I just had a random epiphany of was just, hey, maybe the GPU is a problem because it may not have a supported driver for the 9060 XT, which didn't make a whole lot of sense because it did display out when I go through the install process, but I tried it anyway with this RX 7600 and still the same thing. It'll boot, land on the black screen. So what I decided to do was try a different computer altogether. This is a build that we're going to be selling at PC Bros. Has an older CPU in it. I say older, it's still a modern CPU. It's a 5800 XT. So we got AM4 here, but it also has a 9060 XT. So I'm going to try this. try and install on here. This doesn't have Windows on it yet or anything. So if that works, then maybe our test bench and CPU are a little bit too new to run this setup. Potentially, I don't know. We'll give that a go and see if we get the same behavior. Because if that's the case, then something weird is going on in the process of getting the install done. See that? See that right there? It's not working. I have no idea why it made it look so easy. All the other creators who downloaded it, made the bootable USB, had everything going, booted into Windows. I'm just getting black screens. I'm gonna leave this up and walk away for a bit. Maybe it's doing something. And then I'll come back to it with some fresh eyes tomorrow. And hopefully have a little more ideas on what we can do to potentially get this working. Jackson made the joke, potentially we might just install it on a handheld just to show you guys that we can install it, but apparently on a budget PC, we failed to be able to install it. So we will come back after a little bit of rest and see if I have any more ideas I can try.
So again, I appreciate them showing the process. I appreciate them showing that just like go install Windows on a handheld and you'll still run into the same issues because it's not officially supported. You know, so I can appreciate these kind of open takes and stuff. The issues, well, I'll to see. I want to give them a chance to see if they actually get this running or not before I comment on it. So, because there could be a few different things at play there.
Because we did a whole new PC, so there has to be something with the USB and how I'm installing it, right? Well, you know what, guys? This is a working on the weekend project because, well, I'm here. Hey, what's up? So I'm here on a Sunday because I was doing some research at home, and I feel like just general key advice to people out there who are doing troubleshooting or some sort of project that is just frustrating them. I mean, this is not really that big of an important project, but anyways, this is good advice. Step away for a little bit. Do some research. You'll come back in with a clear mind, and normally you can figure out some solutions, and I think I might have some solutions. Now, I found 2 Reddit threads on r/SteamOS that may have a solution to my problem. The first thing that I was convinced was the problem was that the 9060 XT was not going to be supported by SteamOS, and I think I'm pretty confident that is the case because I've seen multiple threads saying that RDNA 4 just isn't supported by SteamOS right now, which makes sense because it's only designed for handheld. I don't really know why it would be supported, so we'll get there in a bit. But one thing that somebody said on one Reddit thread, which was talking about how they were stuck on a black screen after the install, the advice they gave was to plug up a secondary monitor via USB-C to either, I'm assuming, the motherboard or as another monitor on the graphics card, because what's happening is for whatever reason, it's defaulting to a different display that they think is there. I haven't plugged up 2 monitors before. That would be an easy test here. I don't think this is going to work, but I'm going to record it anyways just to be safe. And again, this was based on somebody doing something, I believe, with a handheld. So again, what we're doing here is unprecedented. There's a couple creators who've done it and managed to make it work somehow, and didn't seem to be as difficult as it was for me, but maybe I have a new version of the ISO that makes it more difficult. So we're going to try the 2 monitor solution here. We have a portable monitor and a main monitor hooked up. And then from there, well, I got to do something devious, guys. I had to go on Amazon because unfortunately, we don't keep any like older gen AMD GPUs. The oldest one I had was the RX 7600, which in theory should be supported, but just to rule out the old GPU support problem, I bought up one of these, the RX 580 2048s on Amazon, just so I had it. We don't keep those things in hand anymore because, you know, they're old GPUs and I don't really recommend anyone keep them on hand anymore, but that'll be my next solution. And then lastly, somebody in Reddit, Braum, by the way, shout out to Braum, was just saying trying an Intel system because I didn't realize Random Gaming in HD did use an Intel system for a CPU. Maybe 9000 series Ryzen isn't the move, but I did try an AM4 CPU as well. So we're going to try something here, guys. If this works, you're going to see this video. If it doesn't work, you're not going to see this video. So we might as well try the first thing first and see if it works. And I'm just going to put this on a tripod and we are going to hit that power button. This is still the same CPU and GPU combo from the last time we were testing this. In theory, if this person is right, one of these monitors, and I'm assuming it's going to be the left one, should work. And we shouldn't be stuck on a black screen. So I did plug it up to the iGPU, and the iGPU doesn't seem to be working. Let's try rebooting with it plugged up to the graphics card. Honestly, this is one of those long shot things that I don't expect to work, but I figured I'd try it before we just go through all the effort of fully swapping out our GPU to something different. Because, yeah, I just want to make sure that this 9000 series won't work. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to cut it. Yeah, we're getting no signal on both. So let's try running. I'm going to do one more test. I'm just going to run just the USB-C which I don't think will give me video out on this board, but it could. I'm just going to run just the USB-C, and we're going to reboot one more time and see if that works. And if that doesn't work, then I'm just going to swap GPUs because I feel like this is not going to cut it. Yeah, we're not getting anything now. Okay, I think it's time to try the 580-2048 and just hope that works. I feel like it'd be very ironic if what saves the day is this hunk of GPU, the legend itself, the 580-2048. But will we get past the point that we were at before? Or am I going to need to reinstall SteamOS again? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, let's go. 580-2048. So the GPU was too new. The 580-2048, the legend, seems to have made this work now. Okay.
Okay, that's the point I was waiting for. So I don't know what the current version of the SteamOS kernel is shipping. So with Linux, you have try to explain this. Okay, so Linux and the GPU support is done through generically a thing called Mesa. AMD generically pins their releases of Mesa or the dumps into Mesa. They generically pin them on kernel releases or Mesa releases as far as like their support. So the 7 series, that's a little weird. I know it worked on the 6000 series because I had a 6600 M. Worked fine for me, but again, it's Linux, it's tech. My anecdotal evidence is not your your experience. So again, I'm probably going to say it's a Mesa issue and a kernel issue because of how the drivers generically are done in Linux, where they're integrated into the kernel and as well as the graphic support into Mesa. So that's probably what you're running into. Again, the 7000 series one, that's a little ... But the newer ones really didn't surprise me all that much because the way AMD does kernel releases and Mesa releases and ties support in for those CPUs and GPUs and all the other stuff, it can be kind of obnoxious because as a Linux user, we'll talk great about AMD, but we want to admit problems with AMD. And if you're on bleeding edge AMD hardware, it's not always the best experience sometimes. I'll be brutally honest. Generally, I would say 3 to 6 months, you'll get support as far as like in line, unless you're running like a bleeding edge Arch or bleeding edge, like, like from scratch or, whatever rolling distro you want to be on. But if you're doing more like static fix releases, kind of like what Steam generically does for their hardware, as far as like the update cycle, you're going to be hurting a little more often because you're waiting for those updates from the support end of things. Because if you use Ubuntu, even if you have the hardware enablement stack enabled, you're still running behind. If you're on like long-term support distros like Debian or Fedora or all the other ones, like you can get support, but you have to go kind of more bleeding edge. So like Debian, you would have to go to testing or unstable to get more of the more recent things and that kind of stuff. So again, it sounds like it's definitely a Mesa and kernel support thing. And again, you are using specifically image designed around certain hardware. So what they could also be doing is ripping out things that might not necessarily be expected on, non-handheld devices.
Okay, so one issue I have seen people say, and we'll go through the setup process just to make sure. Let me put the camera back over here. I've seen some people say that there's an issue with like internet connection. Let's make sure that we do have internet connection, because the thing with SteamOS is you have to make sure you're able to sign into a Steam account. Guys, this is working. This is definitely not the level of GPU I wanted, but the fact that I'm able to get this to work after all this stuff I've been dealing with, magnificent. Oh, this is beautiful. All right, guys, we'll see where it goes next. All right, guys, we're obviously going to have to blur all of this here, but this is the initial setup. We'll obviously switch back to our normal capture card setup on the main set when Jackson gets back on Monday, but I got to get some games downloading and make sure there's nothing major going on here. I'm going to use the mobile app. Sweet. So looks like it works. Ah, we're here. Welcome to Steam Deck. Okay. So basically, as you can tell, this is a version of SteamOS. And I will say, shout out to Bazzite. You've done an amazing job making this look very similar and operate pretty much identically and work honestly a lot better. If you are at home and you are trying to do something like this on a PC and you're just fed up with Windows, I would start with Bazzite first, because Bazzite is the same thing, but it allows you to install it on pretty much any hardware. And I would assume 9070 XT would work perfectly fine on that. So definitely do that then. But as you guys can see, we can get software updates. So it looks like there was a client update. Oh, something went wrong. Oh, we're already encountering issues. Nice. That's a great start. We're already seeing some bugs. Nice. But we're going to install some games. One thing I'm noticing is it's not giving me, well, let's see if I can go to settings and see if it'll show me what driver I have, which I believe you can see under system. So yeah, so we have version 3.7.8, SteamOS Hollow, codename Hollow. If you scroll down further, we have the 9600X, so that is showing up, and we have a 580-2048. Let's go. I know I've seen some creators go up to like a 5500 XT, and that works.
So 6.11 is not the newest kernel. So there's going to be most of your issues. I might have missed your Mesa build. I don't know if they went through that. 2 Athenic. Yeah. So I don't know when support was actually added for the RDNA 4. Radeon. So, I mean, realistically, the GPU, those GPUs came out like, what, a month or two ago. So 6.11, I don't believe has those GPU drivers or support. So there lies your issue right there. As far as the 7600, I got nothing on that one. That one should be at least roughly supported, but again, it could be the kernel, because I think honestly, give me 1 second and I'll tell you. I know I run the Zen kernel, and we're at 6.15.6. So, kernel a bit old. So generally the kernel's every 3 to 6 months. So as far as release cadence, so support might not be there. But again, the 7600 one seems a bit weird though.
For some reason, 7600 didn't work. Maybe that's not supported. So maybe the cap right now is like 5500 XT or maybe 6000 series. I didn't have like a 6600 on hand. So I know at Bazzite it works, but I'm going to go to my library, because why I mentioned that is because if you look under here, normally there's like a Steam supported section that shows the games that are supported on Steam, but it's not showing that right now. So I'm just going to err on the side of caution and install games that I know work, a little more demanding games. Obviously, it is still a 580-2048. Like, we're not going to have an amazing experience gaming on this thing, but we'll do Cyberpunk. I don't think Doom the Dark Ages will work, but since I'm not recording today, I might as well download some games and just see what happens. I have no idea if this game is even SteamOS verified. It's not even letting me click install, so maybe not. Or this thing is absolutely bugging out because there's a game downloading. It's not letting me hit install, so we'll move on from that one. Maybe there is something going on there. Skyrim, yeah, let's try that. There's some weirdness going on here, I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna leave this to download. I have some time to just wait here for this to download. We'll see if that fixes it and if I can install another game. But so far, it's acting a little weird. It's having some weird behaviors. Maybe, you know what I need? Let's try a controller real quick. Forget this entire operating system
is built on the fact that it's for a Steam Deck.
Okay. Let's just work. It will just work. Is there an update that needs to be done? Let's just apply this update. We'll try the update first to see if that fixes anything. Maybe we desperately needed that update, Doom the Dark Ages. Ah, it did. All right, we'll try Skyrim. Yeah, okay. That was really weird. So we'll just download those games. Looks like they're all downloading. Got the Proton layer going. So we got Cyberpunk, Doom the Dark Ages, Elder Scrolls, and Half-Life 2. I feel like I need one more. Left 4 Dead 2. Yeah, that's a good one. All right, so we got some classic games. We got some more demanding games. We got everything installing. And at this point, unless something dramatic happens, I got this working to where we can come back in on Monday. Jackson and I can actually test this thing, but hopefully this was entertaining along the way. Realistically, I could have just started this with a different GPU and this video would have been incredibly boring because it would have just worked, but I showed you guys the limits of it. So hopefully that adds something. We'll be back.
Yes, it does add something. It adds authenticity to show exactly, you know, the pros and cons of doing this. And I do like the fact that you guys are being very transparent about the fact that, like, this isn't supported. Don't know why. Like, this is what I like about content creators like this, is the authenticity that you see in what they're talking about. Pros, cons, goods, bads, the process in between. You don't see just the here's the production, here's the end result. You know, you see the problems that can potentially crop up in between. And I can really, really appreciate that. Again, if the kernel's running 6.11, you're probably, the GPU support's probably just not baked in, so you're probably better off doing a 6000 series if you want the newest cards. Just gonna make that recommendation. That would be the newest you'll get. As far as why Bazzite and those guys, those are based on Fedora and other things, which are going to have newer kernels. So again, that's probably some of the issues that you're running into as far as that.
On Monday. We finally got it working, Jackson. It's finally working.
Yeah, I heard it was really easy and like very intuitive.
No problems. One thing to mention while you're getting initial look arounds of the operating system, we ended up swapping the GPU real quick, which I can actually just show you guys on this camera. I forgot I had a 5700 XT. Which honestly is in that generation where this would work perfectly fine. So I swapped that and it worked fine. So the 580 was allowing me to figure out the problem, but in the long run, I wanted something with a little more horsepower to play games.
So now, all right, one interesting question I have that I totally didn't think about. So with Bazzite,
yes,
it's Linux. So
yeah,
there's a lot of certain games that you can't play.
Yes.
With SteamOS, it's Linux, but can you play everything?
You can still, it's basically the exact same as Bazzite, where it has the Proton layer within Linux.
Compatibility.
But the issue still remains for games like Fortnite, like Warzone, anything with an anti-cheat. Those games still won't work. There is a desktop mode still I've not swapped to yet, but it has the desktop mode, so you can use keyboard and mouse traditionally, which it should allow you to maybe hit the middle button and then go to power. And then, switch to desktops. So let's take you to a normal desktop environment you might be used to with, well, not necessarily Windows, it's going to be different, but it should just be a normal desktop with Firefox installed.
Yeah, usual, Linux stuff.
Usual Linux stuff. So if you wanted to use it in this environment, you could. Obviously, the scaling is really big right now on this 4K monitor, but
yeah, it feels massive. So we got our home Dolphin. So I wonder, is this kind of that weird, is this like a similar OS to like what we used to install Steam, I wonder?
I think so. So I think what we had was almost like a bootable environment to where you could go in and do some stuff. I figured out you can break the installer by trying to actually interact with it without installing it. So fun thing there. But but you do have the desktop environment. The thing is, it feels very similar to Bazzite. But the one things that I did notice is it doesn't have the section under the game category which shows like Steam approved games like Bazzite does. It feels very broken. It doesn't feel amazing, but we did install a couple games. We got Left 4 Dead, we got Spider-Man, Half-Life 2, we got Doom the Dark Ages. I'm curious to see if that's even going to work. I was worried with the 580 it wouldn't even launch properly just because, well, the 580 is, well, kind of a button to 580. But the 5700 XT have a little bit more power to try. But yeah, you can try whatever game you want, just see what it looks like. Left 4 Dead with the controller, and we can do keyboard and mouse also. So we have both options. And again, this is not perfect. This is an ISO that is designed to recover and install in a Steam Deck. Oh yeah, you get the virtual mouse control. Recover an image on a Steam Deck or a Lenovo Legion Go. It is not designed for desktops, but we managed to make it somewhat work.
But it's cool because the idea of us testing this is, hey, maybe soon it will be a thing.
Because if this was difficult, But once supported GPUs are raised higher, it really wasn't that difficult. It really just took the, right graphics card to actually get this to work. And once that's actually supported by Steam and they release a normal desktop version, that'd be kind of cool. Now, we'll say audio. I've plugged up these speakers, and I don't know if we have to change the audio device in Steam or what, but it doesn't seem to be playing out of them unless this is muted. No, yeah.
No, you have the mods still.
Yes, I still have all the mods. Love Steam for being able to like carry that over. So I have all the mods. Well, we may not have audio currently. We'll have to troubleshoot that for the next one, but
We don't need audio.
you don't need audio in games. You don't need that. It's not important. Obviously, this is a very light title, Left 4 Dead, and it's a Valve game, so it should run pretty decent on.
So yeah, again, you got up to a 5700 XT, so 6.11. It's the kernel issue, Mesa issues. So the ISO that is shipped with on this particular ISO is probably going to be the issue as far as like device support, as far as external GPUs and that stuff. The lack of filtering, yeah, that's probably just a general issue with installing it on unsupported hardware. Honestly, as far as the desktop mode, I don't know really what you're looking for in that regard. So the desktop mode is basically literally just that. So the GUI part that you're talking about on the desktop mode is Kitty Plasma, which you can kind of make morph and do whatever you want on pretty much any level. There's also different desktops, GNOME is the one like Ubuntu uses. There's Cinnamon, which Alex Mint uses. There's a myriad of other ways to interact with the GUI in Linux. Breaking the installer, well, how many times has the Windows installer or updater been broken? How many times has I know I've broken the installers on Linux distros, just, usually what happens is, at least one of the ones that I've broken, is it's looking for the internet connection. If you don't have it on, and then you turn it on midway when it's looking through it, and it just like the installer just like frazzes out and doesn't know what to do. And then you cancel it, and then you try to reopen the installer. You just get a bunch of errors as you try to write the ISO to the disk. It's super annoying. But yeah, like again, I appreciate their approach. They're open, honest. It's not super great, but it's also not super bad as far as that. So your mileage may vary.
On SteamOS. Running controller or keyboard and mouse. You can do either one with this operating system. My hopes are if they eventually release a desktop version, they prioritize the desktop environment more than the just controller handheld environment, because in that case, you're able to just do a lot more. And also I'm noticing like some of the overlay stuff, like CPU, it's not showing any wattages on the CPU. Apparently the CPU is not fully supported. GPU, it's showing wattages and power draw because this series of GPU is actually supported, but just some weirdness. Again, I probably would just install Bazzite if you were trying to do this at this point, but it's.
And again, the lack of wattages and that kind of stuff. As an example, on this one, on this system over here, this is Intel Minis Forum NUCX i7. It shows no wattage on my CPU whatsoever because it's an Intel system. So again, your mileage may vary as far as your support as far as that. As it relates to AMD, the 9000 series is probably too new. Just again, that's Mesa and kernel updates and all that other stuff that you're currently missing. That's why it's lacking the support.
We'll see you can get this working.
Oh yeah. So far, I mean, Left 4 Dead's looking really good. I do like being able to use like keyboard or mouse. You can kind of switch back and forth, which is really cool. And that's like not something you can really do. I mean, you can kind of do it on console, but let's be honest, it doesn't work on like half the games very well. So yeah, it's still definitely an advantage of just running like a Linux-based OS on a PC, but let's go ahead and try out another game.
Guys, so we're loading in Spider-Man. We got speakers to work. Believe it or not, Bluetooth speakers. Not really sure what's going on with the auxiliary. Maybe there is something you can manually do, but I'm going to chalk it up to the fact that, once again, Steam does not want us to be doing this, so it's probably not going to run properly. But for the sake of entertainment, we got Bluetooth speakers. Let's see what the delay's like, if there is any major delay.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Oh, there you
I
go.
think I think everything wants to be Steam Deck. So like that's why it was like HDMI Navi 10, which it just wasn't working.
This is a game that I'm glad we had the 57R XT, because the port 580 it would have ran, but I'm glad we had a little bit more horsepower here. Not playing the latest Spider-Man. I installed this one on purpose because I knew the 580 wasn't going to be it, but now that we have a better GPU, give it a go.
Now, honestly, compared to the Steam Deck, the 580 at like 720p, low 1080, that'd probably be about how it runs.
Yeah, it'd be very realistic for sure. All right, so currently, we're getting a nice, smooth 100 FPS, running 1080p. Now, one thing I think I can do, let's see, can I still do? Yeah, so we are currently disable frame rate limit. We were limited at 120, so we don't need that anymore.
You know, this is something I'd love for Windows to eventually get, is like how all these nice OSs have the performance overlay. I would love if we could just get that to where every game ran with it, because we take what, like 15 minutes to set up Afterburner every.
This thing being baked in and all the stuff you can do with it is so cool. That's why I've always really liked Bazzite, because like even if you want to do something a little more crazy, wow, look at that, there's more. There's more. You can guys, you want to see all this stuff? This is for the nerds out there. Here you go. You can see all the VRAM. You can see all the stuff. And I will say,
it even shows you like FSR off or on.
Yep. It shows you everything. So a lot of different cool resources here. I think, are we still limited to 120 in game? I can't see anything now though.
I noticed Left 4 Dead was also 120. I'm wondering if, does this OS have like a cat maybe?
When you do turn, what are you at now? Let's see. Sky test. Oh, you're above it now.
Okay.
All right, so that was VSync in game, and then also there is a site-wide where you can, a global, like you can lock it to the refresh.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Which again, if you have like I know a lot of these budget 4K TVs have at least like a 100 hertz or 120 hertz like game mode. So you lock things to 120, you'll have some very smooth gameplay. This is working. I mean, it works great. No game crashes. The audio thing's a little weird. We'll try a couple more games just to mess around with it. But despite the issues and the limited support it seems to have with other GPUs, once you get it up and running, it feels like the Bazzite experience, and it makes me pretty excited to see what this looks like if Steam decides to release an actual desktop version.
They definitely shouldn't. If they could find a way to really fix the Proton layer even one step further and get like Warzone and Fortnite, oh dude, it'd be over.
That'd be on.
So again, the Fortnite and the Warzone and all the other stuff, EAC already has Linux versions available. BattleEye has Linux versions available. Games like The First Descendant, like the EAC works. Games like SAO games generically use EAC for the multiplayer component. It works online. It is down to the developer and the publisher to enable the shit. And Activision and Microsoft, whatever, whoever the fuck you want to say owns COD. And in Epic's case, they just won't. They won't enable it. So that is a developer problem. That is our publisher problem. That is not a issue specifically related to Proton. So that part I do take a little bit of issue with. Like, I'm fine with throwing blame and issues at Linux and stuff. Totally cool with that. Like, I've ragged on Linux about UI and UX and all the other stuff for years. But I'm also about putting the blame at the right feet. And there's only so much Valve can do to get outside companies to do stuff. And that's really what it boils down to. And some of that becomes market share, some of that becomes financial incentives, some of that, how they can potentially swing that support is a valid criticism. But at the end of the day, the actual, like, hey, I got to go here is on the companies. It's no different than EA and them developing their shitty ass anti-cheat that made Apex stop working. It wasn't a Steam issue or a Proton issue. It was oh, we're lazy issue, or we don't see enough money in this issue because it's EA. And, for every one good thing they do about 15 idiotic things. So that point I kind of disagree with. As far as them developing the desktop is this, I don't want to call it the secondary experience. The desktop is developed in and of itself separately. So a lot of the improvements in Plasma or Key, the pointy clicky part of the desktop, are done as the Kitty Plasma project does change things. Unfortunately, some of those, because like what you're experiencing with the support end of things aren't always the newest on Steam Deck and Steam ISOs and stuff. So like they're running 6.11 as the kernel. Most current kernel anyway is 16.15. They're 16.6, whatever. There's like 4 releases newer now. So they're not on the newest version of Plasma. They're not on the new, so insert your things here. One thing that they have done that I think has been immensely helpful to the project is put Plasma out into the hands of a bigger audience than just the Linux crowd. And that the amount of feedback and the amount of improvements as a prior Plasma user before Steam Deck, before all that stuff, the amount of UI and UX improvements that I've actually seen going into Plasma because of that has been tremendous. Things like things like Discover used to be broken as hell, and they work generically flawlessly now. The Flatpak integration, which is the install format from things like Discover, used to be friggin' dude. Example, sudo Flatpak install, and then originally it used to be this really big long URL that you had to actually know. And now they changed all that, even from the integration of Flatpak into Discover, from the pointy clicky part, or the install process from the terminal has been cleaned up tremendously as well. Just those small usability things wouldn't have been a thing that they would have factored in 5 years ago, because they had a different mindset. And now that we've seen these things, and people single click or double click, single click used to be the thing by default. Plasma got shipped. They're like, oh, maybe we should do double click by default.
Those weirdness on a PC, just get one of these. If they can make it that plug and play, that'd be really cool. Let's try next game. That one's good. Hey guys. So we're just gonna do some Vulkan shaders. Looks like it's running pretty quickly. Curious if this is actually gonna launch though. So because it did show this ray tracing incompatible GPU ray tracing in at least 8 gigs of VRAM is required to launch the game.
We have 8 gigs here.
Well, we have a 5700 XT, which does not have any ray tracing on it.
Oh, so you have to have ray tracing.
I didn't know that was a thing anymore. So you have to have some sort of ray tracing supported GPU for this. So that's not really SteamOS, but if we do go to 7000 series, we've had those GPUs now work on here. Mm-hmm. There's the overlay. So unfortunately, I guess that's a no-go for Doom then. If you hit okay, it's just gonna
jump the game. That sucks. Well, you have said the same thing. You need ray tracing. Oh, I forgot. Ultra high. I forgot about the menu.
Oh yeah. So it went ultra high quality.
Cool. That'll work. Man, I don't know if I've ever played Skyrim on keyboard and mouse, or on keyboard and mouse, on a controller. The FOV is so freaking tight. Is this heal? Yeah, I'm healing. This sounds so good on Bluetooth speaker. Why didn't I do this all these years ago?
Who that? Is that your buddy?
Oh. So is this one locked to 120, you think?
Probably on the game settings. So you should be able to. Well, can you change settings in here? I can't.
No, I don't think. You can't. You had to do like outside. I don't even know if you can go past 120 in this game.
Well, maybe 120 to lock 120 with these specs. I mean, I kind of expected that with a game like this, but
this was a 60 FPS game back in the day. A finisher. I forgot that was a thing. My goodness.
I forgot finishers were a thing too.
Oh yeah, this looks great though. It's running really well. It's awesome. Honestly, the Bluetooth speaker thing worked out. We need to test more games like this. Is fun. But so I think we have one last game up our sleeve. It's a much higher and newer game. Yep, Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunky. All right, guys, last game we're testing is Cyberpunk, and I'll show you guys the settings. Honestly, the biggest thing is we're not really testing the hardware here. We are running high settings with FSR at 1080p, and we're getting pretty good FPS, by the way. We're getting about 120 FPS, not too bad. FOV is horrible. I'll have to change that if you guys want to see it. Just show you guys everything works right, but yeah, crank that. But yeah, running some FSR, it's working. The beauty of having FSR built in is you can actually run FSR across a bunch of games with SteamOS. Not really sure how it's going to work with all games, again, using this install that's not natively supported, but the games are working. The hardware is not limited. We are limited in what hardware we can use, but the fact that we're able to get to work with this GPU and even this newer CPU gives me hope for the future. I'm going to run out here. This is how we'll end it, guys. End our journey. 99% GPU usage, 145 watts. CPU says 0 watt.
I feel like we're testing out coolers again.
We are.
It's like the exact spot.
This is the exact same spot. Oh!
Yeah.
Oh! All right.
Average day downtime. Just kidding.
Yo! All right, guys. So, average day in the Ville. It works. Some bugs. The audio seems to be weirded out for whatever reason. Not sure why. Okay, I got paused because there's a lot happening here. Not sure why the audio's not working right. Again, probably the issue with the ISO itself. But now they got it working. It's cool to see the future of it. Let's wrap this video up real quick.
Well, guys, it's been an eventful install of SteamOS, but we're proud to say that we finally played on SteamOS on a desktop without having to have a handheld or anything crazy like that. And we hope that one day it can be a combatant to Windows.
Yeah, this is really cool to see a full official version of SteamOS. If you're at home trying to do this yourself, you can run SteamOS, but just know the GPU selection is very limited with the GPUs we at least got working. Now, if you are interested in getting the Linux for the first time, I would recommend Bazzite over this right now because it works way better with a wide range of different GPUs. But again, it's still cool that we're able to get this to work and maybe, just maybe, Steam will release an actual desktop version here in the future to make some really awesome budget gaming PCs for you guys. So if you guys want to try this SteamOS yourself, link description down below. It's not an affiliate link because it's a free ISO, so I don't know why I was going to transition to that there, but use that link, give it a shot, and let us know what you think of SteamOS and will you install it on your PC?
So as always, we hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure you check out our other two YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/toastybros. Oh,
All right, so that is kind of the wrap up for them. So my take on all of this is I like the fact that they are very transparent about the fact that this is not supported. So this is not officially supported by Valve or Steam or whatever. That this is very much experimental. That this is not something that you should do because it's not officially supported. However, I do like the DIY kind of solution. I like the stubbornness to get it to work. They do show kind of a lack of the intricacies of Linux, which is fine because those are learned. And the one thing I've always hated about a lot of Linux folks is that it's like, well, you should just know. And it's like, dog, were you stupid in Linux originally? If the answer is yes, then shut the fuck up. So like the hardware support being limited, again, that's how not NVIDIA, that's how AMD kind of pins their hardware releases on certain kernels and that kind of stuff with Mesa and kernels and all the other stuff. So again, it's a willingness to not be scared to demonstrate a lack of knowledge or understanding. So like, normally I probably would have looked at the kernel to see what, like, if I was a Linux guy, if I'm buying AMD hardware, probably would have looked to see what version of the kernel the ISO was running or the image was running before I would try, then you kind of determine your hardware selection at that point. But that's kind of deep ingrained knowledge about knowing the ins and outs of Linux. These guys admittedly do not, and I can appreciate that. But the one thing that these guys do is they bring that sense of discovery and excitability and kind of that like, I did it. That a lot of us that initially jump into Linux really get into for it. We were told we can't and all this other stuff. And it's like, all right, I'll prove you wrong. So I appreciate these videos because they're honest, warts and all, even if they're, it's not the burn the ISO with Etcher or Rufus, plug it in, shows the plug-in, shows it booting, and then it just shows a fully functional PC, running SteamOS, so I can appreciate the trials and tribulations portion that they do show that it does have warts, and I'm totally fine with that because I don't think we see that enough as it is. Linux users tend to see things kind of through a Linux lens a little too often, and videos like this help us kind of backtrack and see from a different perspective. Because I'll be totally honest, there's a lot of Linux users that have their head shoved so far up their own ass that they like the smell of their own shit that much. Because anytime they open their mouth as it relates to criticisms of Linux or people showing something not working on Linux, they will open their shit whole mouth and spew a bunch of shit coming out of it and somehow blaming the user, when it could be a UX issue, a UI issue, it could be a bug, it could be, but oh no, Linux is perfect. Just like Three Dead Trolls and a Maggie have said for 20 plus years, every OS sucks. Linux has its problems, Mac OS has its problems, BSD, Trinity, Temple OS, they all have their problems. They all suck in some way, shape, or form. But I can appreciate this because this has a very genuine authenticity to it that is not really all that often seen in tech and tech YouTube and tech tubers and all this other kind of stuff. So I appreciate what these guys doing and the honesty into which they approach the knowledge about the subject. So I don't know. What's your guys' take? Are you going to install SteamOS on your desktop PC anytime soon, or is it a handheld only, adventure for you currently? You guys know what to do. Comment, rate, subscribe, and you got on Patreon. All that crap is down below, and I'll catch you on the flip.